Welcome, 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 family, wherever you're tuning in from the world. Today is the 22nd of November. It is our first global day of action for Black Power. And when I say our, I mean our time. In this time, this is the first global day of action that we know of that is collectively for Black Power. Not just for Sudan, not just for Nigeria, not just for Congo, not just for Haiti, not just for George Floyd, not just for any one thing. This is for all of us. It is about sharing our power, and that power is our knowledge. This specific panel here, this discussion, is about that. How do we translate our realities, our knowledge? How do we translate that to our youth, to our future? Because we're doing it now. They're going to be the ones to look back and say, this was going on as we were growing up. How do we avoid that disconnect? We're going to wait a little bit here as people start tuning in and coming through. We have Arbab here who will tell us about his newly released masterpiece. And I'm very, very excited as a Nubian, as a Sudanese, as an African, as a woman, as a seeker of knowledge. I cannot tell you how excited. Actually, you'll see how excited I am, because I didn't just have this panel. We're then having another panel just to zoom in more on that. And for the Africa Week 2020 family that are tuning in, you already know this award-winning author we have here, Kentrell Wright, with Perfect Just Like You, is here with us. We should also be having Tambra Ray joining us at some point. Perhaps the tech gremlins have got her because, they've been trying. And so just for good measure, we're just going to put this here in case that is what's stopping her from coming in. Not today, tech gremlins. And Arbab, this is your first time coming to Africa Week 2020, and this is one of the platforms that is working with and for Black Power. And ultimately what we do here is a virtual gathering under the virtual family tree. We connect all our people as family, as people of African ancestry, from the continent to the thriving diaspora. And how we introduce ourselves here is, who are you? What keeps you up at night? And how can our people help you sleep better? And we're seeing people come through. As you come in, tell us who you are, where you're tuning in from. We have the Nubia Initiative tuned in. Yes. That way they know it's not just me. We have a team, and not just that, we have our own Ubuntu fellow, the educator himself, Mazen Elias, tuning in. Power. Thank you. Everyone, tell us who you are, where you're tuning in from, and why you think translating our realities to our youth matters. Why does representation matter? As you do that, I will give the floor to Arbab. Since you are first time here at Africa Week 2020, tell us. Welcome to the family.
Hello, family. My name is Arbab, and I'm a Sudanese American. My passion, what keeps me up at night, other than in the literal sense of vanilla Coke and cinnamon tea, is a desire to kind of like spread knowledge about Sudanese history and Sudanese culture, and basically teaching people to love themselves by better understanding their roots. And in terms of how, this global village can help, just learning, listening, and then spreading this knowledge as well, and then teaching me. That, I think, is a really important thing that, we can all do for each other.
Yes, fam. And that's what today is about. Share your knowledge. And while we were trying to postpone going live as much as possible so we can wait for Tambra, so we can all come in together, the conversation and the knowledge that is already starting to be shared behind the scenes I had to stop these brothers and I had to tell them this conversation needs to go live because our family needs to hear us support each other that way. Our family needs to hear us share our experience, share what works, what doesn't, the way we do, the way that was happening behind the scenes. This needs to go live. And in so many ways, this is what 2020 has been about, bringing down those veils. So there is no longer behind the scenes. Everything is for all of us to see. With that, we have Cantrell here who will introduce or reintroduce himself to you, fam. In the meantime, we have Puerto Rico in the house. Joey Zaza is present. We have Kelia Sky. We are Maggie from Kemite, Grand Risings, and Nozette always. I hope I did not butcher any of the words there. Forgive me if I do, functioning on very, very little sleep. We have Mazen from Brooklyn, New York, and representation matters because we have a story to tell. We have to tell our story. Yes, Mazen, we do. And this is what we're here discussing. Why do we have to tell our stories? Cantrell.
Well, my name is Cantrell Wright, author name K.A. Wright. I am the author of Perfect Just Like You. It's a children's book that was meant to tackle issues such as racism, low self-esteem, bullying, and self-hate. And also it gives light to child molestation. And it shines a little light in that space as well. What keeps me up at night? I love that. I love that question, and it gets me every time because it makes you think. So, what keeps me up at night is just wanting to spread my work. You know, that keeps me up at night. How you guys can help me sleep is to help me share that work with everyone around the world. I believe that it's a healing tool, and I do also believe that it's definitely needed, and it'll be here for generations to come. But again, it needs your help. So that's what that does right there.
That's how the guys can help, you know? How can the ladies help?
Ladies, y'all can
see what I did there?
Like, y'all can actually get in those guys' ears. No, but seriously, it's actually a joint effort. So it's the same thing. Share it. Talk to people. Spend more time. Not just ladies. Y'all spend more time. Families actually connect and communicate with your significant others, and build a stronger relationship with your children. And you guys create a space to where you can actually have dialogue and make each other comfortable with that dialogue, because that's where healing starts. Healing starts with all of us. It starts with each and every last one of us. And the only way that we can actually push the conversation forward is if we fall in love with ourselves. And so in that way, you can extend that love to someone else. So that doesn't just work. That doesn't just work inside the family. That actually works outside of the family too, and which will also connect, draw in family. So that's what y'all can do.
Yes, appreciated. And amplify. We have people tuned in from around the world. And if you're not watching live, you will watch it later, because these are the platforms we're on. It's for Black Power, a global Black Lives Movement. It's Africa Week 2020. It's our entire extended family from around the world. Take a moment, share this video, share these brothers' work, share each other's work. That's what today is about. Uplifting each other and sharing this knowledge. So again, I want to thank you so, so much. And we have a question here. Could you let me know what's the Nubia initiative for? Yes. Though this is not a Nubia initiative platform specifically, though, I will take a moment to introduce myself for our family tuning in for the first time. My name is Dima Mahmoud. I am Nubian from Sudan, having grown up in Egypt. I co-founded the Nubia Initiative with my sister Dalia to protect, preserve, and promote our endangered Nubian heritage and our endangered languages, because they're all connected and because they're far too important for us to lose that knowledge, to lose that wisdom, to lose that heritage without knowing where we come from. That's how we fall victim, and I say fall, to the lies or to whatever is being perpetuated, that our history as people of African ancestry, as Black people, started somehow with slavery. This is why personally, and I told you, you will see this because I will not hide it. This is why personally, I am so very excited for that comic, for the miracle of Amani Renas and everything it carries and means. It's about Mubia, not Nubia, but it's inspired by Nubia. Because you know what? Nubia isn't just for Nubians, and Nubia isn't restricted to a space of land. Every single corner of the world that a Nubian has gone, a Nubian has taken a bit of Nubia with them. In September, there was Nubia Fest, and there was a panel, Nubia Fest 2020. Check it out on Facebook, the Facebook page, Nubia Fest 2020. There was a panel there called Nubia Unbound. And it started as a conversation between Nubians from Egypt, Nubians from Sudan, and Nubians from Kenya. And as we started, Nubians from Uganda tuned in and said, hey, we're Nubians in Uganda. Can we join this conversation? We dropped the link and they joined in. And as we started following these traditions, our food is the same. We still celebrate the same. We still mourn the same. We still honor our history the same. We may call things a little differently, but we are connected to the same root, and it was so overwhelming and so beautiful. And this you feel, you see in the miracle of Amani Renas. So I will start with Arbab. Why are you writing for the children?
Yesterday, I was talking to a Nubian woman, and she was telling me about how one of the surest signs that a language is endangered is when the kids are no longer interested in learning it. Like, this is actually one of the standards that's used by linguists to classify a language as endangered. And I think, that's kind of like a microcosm for the fact that in terms of passing on our identity and our culture and our history, the kids ultimately become the people who do that. They're going to be the next batch of elders who will carry on this story and tell it to the kids of the future. So making our heritage, cool, making our heritage, appealing is, I think, really, really essential in order to ensure it is preserved and appreciated. So that's why I think with everything I do, not just this comic, but also the Sounds of Sudan initiative, which translates Sudanese music, my first thought is always like the youth of these cultures. How can I make this accessible to them? How can I make this appealing to them so they will become the next batch of elders who pass it on?
And not just cool and appealing, but relatable. Relatable.
Yeah.
I grew up not just not listening, but like even the Sudanese music that I would listen to, I get to a point where it's just a bit resentful because it's not that great quality, or no one's actually explaining to me what's being said. So please take a few moments and share what the Sounds of Sudan, why you started the Sounds of Sudan and what it is.
Yeah, so Sounds of Sudan is a project dedicated to archiving and translating Sudanese music in as high quality as possible. We don't always make the mark because Sudanese music is unfortunately very poorly documented, but we really try our best. And, the reason it kind of started was, I was kind of inspired by this other channel I saw that was translating Arabic music, primarily Lebanese, but also like from other countries. And I was really into that, but there was no representation of Sudan. So I went to my mom and I'm like, okay, who is Sudan's Kulthum? Kulthum is like the premier Egyptian singer. And she told me, Muhammad Al-Amin. So I went and started listening to his music and had my mom explain the lyrics. And I'm like, okay, this is really awesome. Like so how can I make other people, engage with this music the way I've gotten to engage with it, thanks to my mom. So that's really where Sounds of Sudan came from. It's really all her. I still can consult her on lyrics, and I think a lot of people have had the chance to learn about the music their parents listen to, and even music they're not familiar with at all. Like we translated Zaghawa music and some Nubian music, music in other languages that people aren't as exposed to, and I think that's been really core in helping people, just understand Sudan's musical heritage better.
Because it's all connected. And
it's all connected.
I'm very grateful for you doing that. Thank you, Arbab. Kentrell, why the children?
Why the children? Because they're important. They are the people who will be our future. They will be our future ancestors, as like the brother here said. And it's our chance to start over again. As adults, we're experiencing the things that the adults before us experienced, right? That our elders experienced. So each time, through each generation, something is passed down. Trauma is being passed down. And I think with the minds of the youth, we actually have a chance to turn things around. And so I believe that's why it's important to reach them first, because there we can actually find healing, not only healing of ourselves, but healing for them as well, prevention of healing for them as well. And so I think you start to put things more into perspective when you can actually see how something is affecting our youth. And so with that being said, it just creates a soft spot for you. I don't care how tough you are, how hard you are. If you see someone, you see a child or a little one, you instantly grab a soft spot for them, and you're like, let me. Your heart, for the most, if you're human, it breaks you down a little bit. It kind of breaks you down a little bit, and then when you really start thinking about it, I guess it's a sense of service. It's a sense of service and a sense of duty. It gives you a sense of duty, and so that's why I feel about the children. That's why you're on mute.
Arbab, remember? Quote of 2020. You're on mute. You're muted. And I will say it again and again. It's not just for Zooms. We, as people of African ancestry, need to recognize that we have been muted. It is time to unmute. Blast the truth out. Gain power from it. Internalize it. Recognize this power that we have and share it. Knowledge is power. Share our knowledge. Kentrell, I want to dive in a bit more and with your message of healing and connecting this to the youth, to loving each other, to embracing ourselves, for it to be really, truly a chance to start over and start the way we had hoped we started. Because that's what it is, right? Our parents do what they do for us because they want us to have it better than they have. And it's somehow taken into what is better according to them. How does relating to the youth, relating to our children early enough, not just allow for this divide or this gap, but actually make them part of the process, make them part of this vision? So why perfect just like you?
Perfect just like you is a tool. It's a tool to drop the ego. It makes you drop your ego. And we know ego would be the thing that actually blocks us from being able to reach people, to be able to reach others outside of yourself, because you have this sense of I need to do this, and I need to do that. This is my child, and this is this, and they need to go the way that I want them to go. And you don't realize that that's an actual being. That's an actual being that you are responsible for. You do have to take care of it, but you have to do it. You have to do it in a healthy manner, right? So I say that to say, lost my train of thought a second ago. So I believe perfect just like you is actually one of those things that can actually bring that to existence. And so if they again, if it's given us a chance to start, I think it's given us a chance to start over, because you actually have the opportunity to unlearn some things, and know that it's not necessary to carry on old ways of being. If they didn't work for you, they won't work for them. And I think I may have gotten off the topic just a tad bit, because I actually lost train of thought a second ago.
It's all connected. And if you lost train of thought and you picked up another thought, that's a thought that spirit needs out there. Perhaps someone out there needed to hear just that thought. I'll take some words from the comments. Brother Mohsen Abdul, who is a Nubian based in Uganda, still tracing his roots to Sudan. Welcome. Ahmed Fathi Maskagero from Aswan. Welcome, welcome. If you haven't been, visit, make time. Blessings, family. We have the Global Green Book. Blessings, blessings, blessings. We speak Arabic, Creole, and the thing that Nubian language. I am up for any initiative that can teach the children the Nubian language in Uganda. I think that's a great segue. We won't get into this in this panel, in this discussion as much, because really this is more about the process of writing and creating that storyline. You know, what are you drawing your inspiration from to relate to our children? That said, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so in 1 hour and a half, we will have another session that is an exclusive interview with this exceptional, talented brother here to tell us more about it. And he has a little secret of how he'll have his star, Princess Winji, help us all learn some Nubian language. So we will keep that there. And it would seem that the Luca is internationally there as well, transcending boundaries, and not just in Sudan. Yes, yes, yes. And we're here for it. And Hagar Awad. Thank you for joining us. Please tell us where you're tuning in from. Arbab, where's this inspiration coming from?
Like, was it like where am I based, or where?
No, where is
Miracle
this
of Humanity
inspiration? Yes,
from?
it's Nubia inspired. It's Nubian history inspired. It's you know, emphasizing that, you know, you as a Sudanese American artist, emphasizing that dimension of Nubian history and Nubian heritage that is ultimately now part of the Sudanese identity, but it's still its own identity, and bringing them in to say that there is no conflict. So how, and also calling it Mubia and not Nubia, to allow yourself this creative space, this creative, the fact that we can have like planets in the background as Princess Winji. We will be sharing some imagery with you shortly, hopefully, and maybe we can get a few lines, maybe the favorite few lines from each of the authors to share with you. But I will be dropping their links, their Instagrams and so on, for you to follow them and see where you can support. But why was it important for you to leave that creative leeway?
I think, we've talked about this before. I think there's both room for the historical documentary, but also for some, say a historical documentary on Greek mythology, and then Percy Jackson, which is kind of based on Greek mythology, but it's it's really imaginative and, very different, made to relate to the people of today. The reason for that is I think this is an excellent catalyst for people to get excited about their heritage. It gets them to emotionally engage with their heritage, because I think the act of passing down heritage isn't just, or teaching people, isn't just a educational or academic one. It's very much an emotional one. And so that's why I think it's essential, for me at least, to have this creative space, so I can, I have this freedom to break free from this academic box that I think Nubia has often been relegated to, and bring it into kind of this emotional sphere that can connect with people's hearts instead of just their mind. I think that's really important in terms of like I said, just letting Nubia be free in this sense. I'm letting our history be free, letting it be more than just something for historians, but to be this pool from which we can draw, stories, confidence, everything.
Letting Nubia be free and bringing it into a sphere of emotions, because writing and creative writing is absolutely a form of art, and art is language of the heart. In being able to connect in that manner, can you think of an instant? I can, for the for the miracle of Amanirenas, where having that creativity allowed you to shift something to make it more not relevant, but more relatable, I suppose, to today.
This might be a little bit weird for a lot of people. I think it might be a subtler thing that some people don't really focus on, but for me, it's the anachronisms. So the Miracle of Amanirenas is, in terms of how people dress, is not necessarily period accurate. To my knowledge, the gerger did not exist when, Amanirenas was around, or, the style of shuluch that I use, facial scars. I'm not entirely sure, and I think largely they didn't exist in the time period I'm talking about. But for us, for the Nubians of today, for the Sudanese of today, these are recognizable symbols of our culture. When we see a man in a turban, we're like, okay, he's just like me, and I have one. When we see someone with the 3, lines down here, it's like, okay, that's those are my grandma's shuluch. That helps us connect. And I think, being able to have this kind of freedom in the time period, in the fashion of the time period I portray, that to me was a part of, making it feel familiar in a way that, it otherwise might not have. You're on mute again.
Can you hear me now? Yes, okay, brilliant. We have Tambra who joined us here. She beat the tech gremlins and made her way, and with all her lists behind the temp. Okay, family, we have Tambra Ray Stevenson, a doctor in the making, a CEO, an entrepreneur. Happy Women Entrepreneurs Day, by the way. Happy belated Women Entrepreneurs Day, and happy Global Day of Action for Black Power. Thank you for tuning in and sharing with us. So you are on For Black Power Live, Africa Week 2020 Live, the Nubia Initiative Live, and Nubia Fest 2020 Live. But since this is a conversation under the umbrella of Africa Week 2020 and under the virtual family, welcome to the family. Tell us who you are, what keeps you up at night, and how can this family help you sleep better?
Wow. Thank you so much. That's a lot. Yeah, I've been in the middle of wrapping up fall semester with mock comp, and meeting deadlines. So anyone able to help with that, I welcome. But or just simple blessings. Blessed to be Black in America. At this time in a soon to be transitional administration. But even though we still rise and persist regardless of who's in place. So I think that's the beauty of today's conversation about the power of art and creativity being an expression of our own form of activism and resistance by creating new narratives that really celebrate our culture and heritage, and how important that is to do so in the midst of when the first stories of Africa were told by Western journalists reporting of how the women danced semi-clad around the fire and of the beating of the drums of our brothers, and how ritualistic it was, but so foreign to them. It's the power of story that sometimes lose sight in order to honor the science and the math and the engineering. But as I've transitioned from this science, public health space into communication during my doctorate in media tech and democracy, I realized how vitally important, like the both sides of our hemispheres in our brains, they both matter. One does not matter more than the other, which is why we use the term STEAM. And I am a convert. I've always been into art and creativity. I wanted to write my first children's book. I did as a kid on a notebook paper, wanting to be published, but having no author in the family, no one who has published at that time, it was very difficult to imagine that. But now, through the use of technology and do-it-yourself practices, all of us can self-publish and tell our own stories and instantly put it online for public consumption and create this discourse that can help elevate and create a groundswell of our culture is a part of this political movement of bringing in our identity. And so through the use of children's stories, I've been able to do that through a character called Little Wanda, and how in many ways I was motivated to develop her while completing a program at NYU in partnership with WHO, World Health, with other colleagues from UNICEF, communication officers, and by chance of being in a local bookstore, learned about Tintin. And I did not grow up with this Belgian character. I grew up in the middle of the heartland in Oklahoma, and where I did not see characters even portray that region, let alone this idea of this mythical little white boy with his dog learning of cultures around the world. And through his lens, we were all savages. And so that was disturbing, how children's media can be used to perpetuate racist constructs, and how in which white privilege can reign supreme in the minds, and how it becomes a part of a mindset, and how the unconscious biasness can happen, and how we can see that. And I said, what if there was a character who was the Black girl magic version of Tintin, who saw our culture in a way that was what we know to be true, not only ancestral royalty, but also one that is emboldened and strong in this outward appearance that lies within of just communalism. The idea that we come together in the spirit of Ubuntu to serve and heal one another, and how our children will lead the way, like the song. And her name is Little Wanda. And through the power of food, she does that, starting with wanting to heal her Nana from diabetes and using her African heritage foods to do that. But the only way she can do that is by going to the great continent of Africa and meeting with Big Wanda, who's our version of Glinda the Good Witch, and learning how these foods are grown and prepared and how she can learn these secrets and help and bring it back to America. And so much undertones I weaved into the idea with it in its most simplistic form of this idea of, we know colonizers undeveloped Africa, but if we were to look through this pre-colonial idea of understanding that we have all that we need already within. And through her travels with her magic apron, the very thing that was seen as anti-women liberation was the very thing that freed her to heal her community. And as someone who defied the idea of gender stereotypes, wanted to be a military academy, bilingual teaching military physician, and well, on my way with a congressional nominee, I realized that I also have been influenced by patriarchy to believe that my feminine power is powerless. And the moment I became a mom and having children and began to see food in a very healing, cathartic, as well as a way to connect to spirit after losing my father, I transformed my mind and my thinking and being and believing of what food can represent beyond just the food porn on IG. But it is a pathway to connect to our identity, our culture, our community. It is our medicine for our soul, just as it is the fuel to our bodies. And that has led me to see food beyond the science, beyond the lab, beyond the research, but to see the spirit of food. And that is what has carried me in this love of food through this new lens, and trying to find ways to incorporate that in my work through WANDA, which is Women Advancing Nutrition, Dietetics, and Agriculture, of creating space for Black women and girls to see themselves as everyday food heroes to help be what our community needs. And that's where this time to share is important, to know why, what led me to this understanding, to see these intersections of Black and woman and food, and coming together, and how writing allows us to express these concepts and hopefully motivate a new generation.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And you also write songs. Wanda sings
not
as she
publicly
goes and
shared,
visits.
but yeah, I.
Well, it was quite public at the African Union briefing.
You do have a chance to hear. I've written more since then, but yeah, you know, I think it goes to this idea that no matter what label society sees you, like I see my son as an engineer, if he chooses to be an artist, why not? But you got to start somewhere. So yes, I was always that. It's true. Everything you need was already there, even when you were a child. I always loved art and writing and would write poetry. And so I found myself in healing post Katrina, and with my dad loss and grieving and honoring his spirit, I revisited the very things that I loved, because I realized life is short. We cannot live life with regrets. If anything, through COVID and this pandemic, I hope that we've echoed the message. If you have not been living your best life now, you need to do it now. And that is what I knew before COVID. And it was really setting the stage to be able to thrive in the midst of the storm and find beauty even in the midst of crisis. And it has carried me by having my own pandemic so long ago.
Wow. There's so much more to where that is coming from. And I want to pick up on the topic of self-publishing, because that was part of the conversation that was happening behind the scenes, where we said, pause everything and let's take this live right now and see, let people hear this, because this is also advice based on experience. So as important as it is for us to relate and relay our realities to our youth, it is not always easy. There are some challenges, and I won't say problem, because it is a reminder we don't have problems. We have challenges that we can overcome, and we have opportunities. If you missed the live earlier this morning with Raiz tuning in from Switzerland, brother from Cape Verde, go to the Full Black Power page and listen to the brother and what he was saying. Taking from there, reflecting back on your journey when you first started writing this piece, now, you know, between the award winners and the soon to be award winners, ultimately all winners that we have here sharing their journey in writing and relaying our realities to our future. Could you tell us some of these challenges within taking ownership? This is ultimately us reclaiming our narrative and stepping into our truth. If we're doing that, we will have pushback. How have you overcome it? And I'd like to start with Cantrell, because he was the first thing that he said when Arbab was saying he released the comic. It was, how did you release? Where did you release? Because this brother, and stay tuned, because at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Cantrell is going to be coming back with a workshop, sharing his knowledge and offering some things for you. If you are someone who has a story, and all of us have a story to tell, because life has taken its time teaching each and every one of us something that we can share and we can teach one another. Cantrell, can you tell us the journey to self-publishing, or why you say self-publish, self-publish, self-publish?
Self-publishing, that it was tough. It was tough. Because I didn't start off with wanting to be an author, I guess. You know, it was just something that came out of nowhere, and I didn't know where to look. You know, so all I did was just write. I wrote some stuff down, and you know, it sounded good, and I was like, all right, cool. Let's kind of went through the process of that, right? But as I started to like search for things, you know, or ask or reach out to others about, like, you know, hey, how do you self-publish? How do you do this stuff? You know, sometimes some people don't want to share it with you. They don't want to share certain things with you, but then some people do, right? But anyways, I say to self-publish because if you self-publish, you own everything. You own the rights to your work. You get all of your money, and it's a great feeling. You already get a good feeling that you finished your book, right? But you feel even better because you've now put that out into the world. You put it out there into the world. It's a vulnerable space. You know, people have access to your thoughts. They know what it is, what it feels like, but it turns into ownership. And that's important for us as well, is owning everything, owning our ideas, owning anything that you produce, you own it because it's your essence. It's part of you. And here you are, you're giving your essence away to entities that that charge you. Entities, they're taking away from you what you already naturally possess. And so, and normally when you self-publish, I mean, if you go with I'm not going to say with all publishers or anything like that, because I don't know the full extent. I don't know the full process of that, but I do know that it's not what you think it is. You know, they may get like, you know, $10 or something like that. You might get like $1.50 every time you publish it, every time somebody buys a book or something, like, you know. So because there's a lot that goes into that for them for doing it too. Now they publishers and stuff, they do have access. Normally they have access to, you know, larger platforms. They can reach people, but that process to even get to that. And I'm a very optimistic person. So when I do hear other people say, oh, it's very, very hard and it's very tough, I don't really think in that term. I think like if it's meant to be out there, your book would be the one that actually gets through and just, you know, get on every platform. But, you know, in the other sense though, there's a possibility that for someone to choose your work, it sometimes it won't happen. You know, and even though you may feel it's good, you know, a few people who've read it might feel that it's great work. But if you leave it up to them or you leave it up to someone else to judge your art, then, you know, and they don't think that your art is good enough, you're not going to get any play with it. So I say you will want to self-publish, because no matter how anyone else feel about it, there is someone out there who wants to see your work. And they are willing to pay you full price for your art. And I think that you shouldn't doubt yourself in that space. And you deserve to own that. You deserve to know what it feels like. And not only that, that's something that you can leave down as you can pass down as legacy. That's something that you can give to your children or your great grandchildren. Something they can look forward to being proud of. Right? They've seen their father, they've seen their mother publish, and they grew up in this household to where books are very important. Or they've seen that your mom is always at home. Mom's not out doing a 14-hour a day job or anything like that, missing time from home. Mom always stayed at home with me. But the only thing is, you know, mom was a writer. I want to write. I want to tell my own stories. I want to be like mom. I want to be like that. And then now you've created something, you produce something, and now you're teaching someone how to think. And again, we talk about it's a healing space as well. So you've creating your own space to heal, and you're actually receiving money. I mean, to say the least, you're receiving, that's a job for yourself that you've created, a way to support yourself and a way to support your family.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. And Bob, I hope you're taking note, because there's a lot more where that's coming from. You know, the importance of us coming together and sharing this knowledge is that we don't repeat the same mistakes, is that we don't all do the same thing or reinvent the wheel. And hopefully this is one of the things that Kentrell will be sharing in his workshop, and something that I know he's looking to offer to emerging and future authors and future creatives, in that if there's a guide, if there's a template, if there's a checklist for people to go through, you don't have to do it alone. If you're not doing it just for yourself, don't do it alone. We are really, truly everything as a people. Someone in our family somewhere is thinking of what you're thinking, because it's all energy and we're all connected. There's someone whispering in our ears. Have you ever been in a position where you see an idea or you see something that's being announced, but oh, I was just thinking that's something that was needed. Yes, because the universe needed that thing. And it's not good. It doesn't take chances. The universe does not have a sense of humor. It doesn't take chances. So it's not just going to leave that idea with that one person. We're going to be inspired. We just need to find each other. And thankfully, we're doing it. We're doing it, and we're coming together, and more of that. Tambra, please tell us your journey, your self-publishing, and how did you claim that platform for yourself, and how do you continue to do it? Because now it's not just about the book and it's not just about the songs. Now there is a plan for a game.
I mean, for me, I echo the points that Brother Wright shared. I did look initially at all the variations. You can, there's 3 pathways. You can get an agent, go through the publisher route. You can do the independent publisher, which takes their piece, maybe $1 or 50, whatever you get from that book. Like Ingram Spark or something, and then you have the fully self-publish, and you and a printer, you assemble an editor, or getting someone out Fiverr, whatever those sites are, or whatever the case. I chose to do the self-publishing route and just create my own little team of people, because it involved, a number of different parts. You have, it's a bilingual book. It's in English and Hausa, like every book is English and another African language, and so it takes people with skill who understand, languages. And so that's not easy going to happen with these Western publishers. So it was even in working with people on the ground on the continent to develop the illustrations and everything, because of the different, ethnic groups. You have a Yoruba illustrator trying to illustrate Fulani culture. You have divisions, and so there's education internally that happens, and so it's so much, and then dealing with a specialty around like food and nutrition, like bringing people who have the background, health and medicine, and all these specialized components, and so not anybody is going to take something like that on. And so I knew, if this is my passion, this is the social proof I need to be able to show about what does that, look like, and demonstrate that there's an audience of interested people, and go and do it. And it involved doing the research, looking at all the different kind of publications out there in my genre space that say they are focusing on, children of the diaspora, whether it's, Black girls, or on food, or on health, and just realizing, there's a gap, and that's opportunity to seize. And I have that specialty competency to be able to contribute to that. No different than now in a doctorate program. What does the literature say? Where's the gap? How's your research fitting in that gap? Building a new agenda, same concept. And then from there, having a team is the discipline, literally so much like a PhD. I have 3 other books, tons of songs, unpublished stuff. This is how, when people say, like, when Prince dies and you have all these, pieces that have never been published, I know what that feeling looks like. I'm there now. It's just a matter of when you're going to take the time, edit, publish, get it done. But things have been, when you're in that prolific writing stage, it's like the genius spark. You on a flow, creative flow. And that's, that period I went under, and it's an awesome flow, but you can be your own bottleneck even to the flow. So it's being able to understand, yes, who will be the village to support the self-publishing journey, how to leverage resources, existing network, to make it happen. I wanted to be able to have a local relationship with the printer in case they botch up something. I can go and talk to somebody and look them in their face, and they give me a discount. So these things matter, in my opinion, in building relationships, because I'm in it for the long haul. This is not a one-trick pony show. So it was important for me, as someone who's pro-community, to build my own community around little Wanda, and to know that a village supports her. And so I want to echo and the values and demonstrate what that should look like beyond just the story, but in the actual construction and production and distribution of her. And so even in the distribution side, it was intentional. I only wanted to put her in Black bookstores. And so I live in Anacostia, Washington, D.C. It was crucial for her to be a part of Mahogany and to know Mahogany has a connection with me because we both grew up in Oklahoma and Black women leading in book, marketing. So all of this, when you think about the supply chain of just books or creative process, along the process, how are we building the creative Black economy? How are we supporting people along the way? If it can't be the printer, is it how you're distributing? Is it the people that you hire to help construct? All these things matter. And as someone who worked in government on minority business, like promoting it, it was important that I also have a diversity inclusion criteria with my procurement process. And that is something that I'm super conscious of. Like, am I hiring Black women, Black people on my work, period. And wherever I could do that, that is part of the journey of telling the story. That's really, really important, that sometimes we don't think about characters like Doc McStuffins and others. Is like, how many people were part of the creative process, and not only creative process, the economic process of the creativity itself. And these are things that I am very conscious of, and why I went the self-publishing route.
And this is why it's so important to engage your community as stakeholders in what you are doing. Because if they're stakeholders in your success, then your success is their success. It's no longer you building for everyone, which is, again, we go back to, if you're not doing it just for you, do not do it alone. You simply don't need to. And I am being a hypocrite as I say that, and I'm saying it out loud, because there are so many times where I'm just like, it's okay, I'll just do this. And it could be the Aquarian in me, and it could be the woman in me, and it could just be the Black woman. It could be a million other things, but ultimately, it's there. And one way for me to deal with it is to call myself out on it publicly, and to do it while I'm speaking to my people, while I'm speaking to my community, because we have to hold one another accountable. We have to hold each other accountable to when we're saying, don't go at it alone, and then you see me going at it alone, you have to throw it back in my face and say, but you said, don't go at it alone. So family, if you're tuning in and you're hearing me say this, and then you come at some point in May while Africa Week 2020 is relaunching for a grand reunion, and I'm losing my hair or my mind or both, remind me why it is happening. Arbab, how have you engaged the community? How has your trip been? What would you tell? And you can pick whatever it is, because whatever you don't pick up here, we're going to discuss in our other panel. But as a creative, what would you tell those emerging ones, especially that you are, mashallah, this young budding artist, 20-year-old. And if you have not seen that comic, please look up The Miracle of Amani Rinas. I will write it down as Arbab shares with us a little bit about his journey and what he leaves emerging creatives with. Thank you.
I mean, obviously, I'm really still inexperienced in this field. I'm still learning a lot to be able to, impart wisdom on others. But, I think just overcoming that first hurdle of kind of doing the thing that you're interested in doing and sharing it with your community. I think just overcoming that hurdle is something that a lot of creative people need to do, because this isn't the first thing I drew. I drew a whole lot of other things before this, and some of them were not very good. But that type of community response, having people around you who are encouraging you and seeing themselves in your work, that will give you this kind of like spirit, the energy to do better, basically. So that's not really
But
all
you
I
know
can
what?
say.
As much as we say learn to teach, you are learning. And as you learn, you teach. And as much as we're saying teach to learn, because Cantrell and Tambra are here sharing what they already know, they're here to teach it. But through your journey, how you chose to do something, and you saw it already behind the scenes, before backstage, before we went on, how you said, oh, but I went and I did this and I did this and I did this, and then you find Control like, oh, okay, then that's a different story, then that's a different route, then this is the. We learn to teach and we teach to learn. Those of us who teach have to go into it from the perspective that we have something to learn as much as we are imparting with this knowledge. Family, I have dropped the link. This is the Twitter link to Arbab's account. In it, you will find the thread to the comic and also the appendix. I'm also going to be dropping Wanda's details, so you can follow, amplify. It's Global Day of Action for Black Power. Amplify one another. If you learned one thing from this talk, if you learned one thing from this conversation, or know someone who might benefit from it, take a moment, share it, tag it, and amplify our family here doing what they are doing. Okay, I want to see if we have any questions. Always in class. Yes, yes, yes. Whether you're teaching or you're learning or you're out watching the sky and the trees and the birds, always in class. Be always in class. Thank you. Someone saying you're going to be fine. Black UMD, Black Terps Matter, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to Black Terps Matter. Follow them on Instagram, I believe on Twitter as well. And we don't seem to have questions, so what I will ask of you is, what message do you have to our future creatives? Where can they reach you if they have any questions? What can they reach out to you for? How can you help them move with their creative processes? Would you be open to reading something? Would you open to share it? Last words for Black Power. Contrell?
Sorry, I was having trouble with the mute button. For me, I have so like I said earlier, I will start showing people the steps that I've taken to self-publish. So that's something, if you're interested in that, you can actually reach out to me. You can find me on on my social media platforms, or at k.a.wright@perfectjustlikeyou.com. And we can build there. Also on say what's it? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Can't. Mute. Calendly.
Calendly.
You drop the link in the private chat. I'll drop it in the comments so it goes to everyone.
Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do that in a second. You can check it out on there. And just basically, if you have any questions, just reach out to me. If you want to try to collaborate on something, or if you want to sit down and like have a conversation about, just have an idea. If you have an idea or something that you want to flesh out, I can pretty much help you bring that out. I'll call that from heaven to earth. I can definitely help you bring that to fruition. And yeah, just stop by, say hi, different things like that. So
Thank you. Arbab?
I'm also open if you're a creative who needs, who needs advice on something. Don't know how much I'll give, but I promise you I'll try my best to help. And if you're someone who's interested in also like, having the folk tales of your people illustrated, if you're interested in kind of like spreading, knowledge about your culture, making your heritage cool, as I kind of said earlier, talk to me. We might be able to get something working. I might be willing to illustrate, what it is you have in mind.
And real quick, before we go to Tambra, would you mind telling them a little bit of what you were working on for Black November as far as your character, and again, collaborating to expand beyond Sudanese, beyond Nubian, beyond certain bound borders there, as I pull them.
Yeah, so I began something called Wingy on the tour of Africa. I'm basically going to have Princess Wingy, one of my characters, go to various African-inspired, cultures and kingdoms and do something that's like typical, that's a part of that culture. So, I started in Ethiopia, had Princess Wingy drink Yebana coffee with, a princess of that culture, and I plan to continue Wingy's journey as she goes all over the continent.
Yes. So if you have some knowledge, if you would like Princess Winji to visit your village, your country, your people, connect with Arbab. And I think, and I already told both of you this, and I'm putting it out there. I think Wanda and Princess Winji need to meet at some point and need to have this conversation. This was the first thing I told Tambra when I met her, is that Wanda needs to come to Nubia. Wanda needs to come to Nubia, and Wanda needs to learn how we heal ourselves with our food in Nubia. And so I'm just putting it out there, and I will yield to Tambra. Any words, last words, words of wisdom? Why, and what can people reach out to you for and about?
Yeah. So to all creatives, I say continue to create and let your light shine. It's the purpose that was put within you, and your soul will not be complete until you fulfill your God's will be done. I believe that emphatically that we are just a derivative of the ultimate creator, and therefore we are to create. And so whatever blockages you may feel, whatever job you have, school path, what parents tell you, just know that you can do it and this, if not both, or as one. It can be done in due time. And so just be patient with yourself, give yourself grace. And, I pray that God gives you time to be able to express that creativity in the time in which you're ready to show the world. But you have a voice and a vision on your heart that must be expressed, because we're all here to bless one another, and encourage others to see the God within. So I just want to say that all we need is already within, which is Wanda's mantra, and that within you, you have the creativity, you have the skill, you have the imagination, you have the ability to foresee this moving forward. And if you need inspiration, this is where I and Wanda come into play. Our Calendly link is calendly.com/IamWandaORG. And we're also, our website is iamwanda.org, and on cross social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can find us. And so I just want to first thank Dima for the time to be on the platform and to be in community with my fellow creators, because all of us are creators, no matter if it's art or if it's construction of a building or a new law. We all have the power to create.
Sure. Thank you so much. All the links and websites and emails are dropped in the comments. You also have Arbab's GoFundMe link. This work takes energy. It takes time. We have a 20-year-old student who is taking time to make sure our youth have what we didn't growing up. This is massive. It is huge. And if you can't give, you can share. Please take that link and share it. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. If nothing else, they will know it's happening. If nothing else, it could just inspire someone starting something similar. And that in and of itself is impact. So please, for Black Power, for our family, take a moment, share, amplify these wonderful people, find their books, read them to your children, and follow their work. I will see if we have any more comments here. And here we go. Oh, and we have also Perfect Just Like You on Instagram. Please follow. And one more thing, the Calendly. Book your free consultations. See what brainstorming will yield. Here we go. Again, I want to take a moment to thank you all for all your work, to thank you for your efforts. Stay tuned. We will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Black Power, this time featuring more exclusively and diving deeper into all that is the miracle of Anachronisms, the behind the scenes, the moving forward, the trajectory, and what comes next. Followed by a workshop by Kentrell, Right with Right. And you have to tune in for the workshop to find out which right is right and see how you can create and relate our realities to our youth. And later after that, we have another amazing talk by Talib and Sevi, 2 artists and a mic. So for Black Power, we're going. This is a global day of action. It is nonstop, 24-hour for Black Power. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in. Peace and blessings. Share this video, follow these people, and reach out so we can continue building. Thank you so much. Peace.
Peace.